Here back again with another review, and today we're going to talk about review Space Jam, which I have on Blu-ray here, and this was requested by DJ Donnelly. Thank you, DJ, for the request. DJ has always been a good guy up here on YouTube, has supported the channel for years, even going way back when, I had different channels. DJ has always been there and, has left kind words. So again, thank you, DJ, for that. Like I said, he wanted me to talk about and review Space Jam. So before we talk about the film itself, let's get into the plot here, and I'll keep it brief. So basically, you have Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes. They recruit Michael Jordan to help them face this alien race known as the Monstars in a high-stakes basketball game where the losing team means lifelong enslavement. And I mean, that's pretty much the plot here to the film. So now we got that out of the way. Let's get into the film itself. So if we talk about performances here, Michael Jordan, at this time, he was an icon. A fun little fact about me, I actually saw Michael Jordan play. My uncle carried me to a Bulls game back in the day. I don't know what year. I wish I knew which year it was and where it was, but I remember it was the Bulls versus the 76ers. And the Bulls beat them by like a few points. And again, this was back in the day. I remember Dennis Rodman sitting on the sidelines. I think he just sat on the bench, throughout the game. And again, I wish I knew when this was and where it was. But this definitely happened back in the days. So I can say that I did see Jordan play, and I was probably maybe 6, 7. It could have been around this time. It could have been, around this time the film came out, or, maybe a year later. I don't know. I can't, my uncle carried me. I've asked him over the years, what year was that? And, he forgot about that. But yeah, that is something that I can brag about. But, again, talking about Michael Jordan here, his performance in the film, I think for me, it's serviceable, given the plot of the film, the concept, his reaction, like his reactions to the situation and the concept. And I think, for what he's given here, I know a lot of people are, maybe some people say that, he's wooden or flat, but I'm not going to be too persnickety about his performance here. I mean, it's a Looney Tunes movie, so it's like, are we really going to split hairs about his performance here? Especially, for a film that's been around for a while, and it's nothing Oscar worthy coming from Michael Jordan. I mean, again, I think given the plot, given the concept of the movie, and Michael Jordan, the blend of live action with the Looney Tunes, I think, he works within the film's tone, and, his reactions to the situation and stuff like that. So let's talk about some other stuff here. The blend of live action and animation, I thought it worked well in the film. The cartoon world, definitely brought, energy and humor and charm. The supporting cast, you have Wayne Knight in the film, of course, Newman from Seinfeld. And, he brought some good, comedic, physical humor to the film, playing Michael Jordan's assistant, a character that would carry his bags and, do little odds and ends for Michael Jordan. And again, I thought he was a good comedic presence here in the film. Bill Murray, definitely a highlight here in the film. I thought he was a good addition and had some good lines here that I chuckled at. And I thought Bill Murray definitely fit well within the concept of the movie and, the chaos of the plot. It's like as if, for me, Bill Murray, I think he should have had his own Looney Tunes movie. Where, it could have been like him and Bugs, just imagine that. And apparently back in the day, I was reading, I think I read this somewhere in the trivia, that he was considered for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or he wanted to do it, and he may have been like working on something else and he wasn't able to do that movie, but he wanted to kind of, you know, so when this came along, he jumped on the chance to, do this type of film, where he works with animation. I thought I read that somewhere, but again, Bill Murray was a nice addition to the film. Danny DeVito as the voice of the main villain. It was a fun villain. I thought he, was having fun here with his performance. And the Looney Tunes characters, of course you have the classics of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and, Porky Pig and, but you also have Lola Bunny in the movie. And, they bring the film to life here. In the Looney Tunes humor and the gags, I thought they worked well within their world. Of course, you can't talk about this movie without talking about the Monstars. And, the Monstars, they're a standout element in the movie. I would say, like, if there's three things that people talk about when it comes to this movie, you could say that, the Monstars are either number one or two. Like Michael Jordan, of course, the Monstars, and you have the soundtrack, which we'll talk about in a second. And, but, the Monstars, the whole concept of, them stealing talent from NBA players, I thought was a nice touch. And it was cool to see, cameos from Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, and other NBA players in the film. So again, I like the concept of, the Monstars, stealing the talent. The pacing of the movie, it's an hour and 25 minutes. I mean, take away 5 minutes for credits. So you could say it's an hour and 20-minute movie, and it moves at a fast pace. It has a breezy pace here. Never overstays its welcome. And the film here is directed by Joe Pytka. Now, from what I understand, and I think it's even stated in the trivia that apparently, Ivan Reitman did most of the directing here, and Joe Pytka really provided the animation. Um, so I mean, it's whether if Ivan Reitman directed the film and, but credit was given to Joe Pytka. Whichever the case, I thought the direction here, it kept things light. It kept things energetic and accessible. And you can't talk about this movie without talking about the soundtrack. To me, the soundtrack is the heart of the movie. Like, I Believe I Can Fly, and, Fly Like an Eagle. Again, just great songs here. Again, the soundtrack is the heart of the movie for me. And, the film, it's definitely a product of its time. It's a nostalgic, time capsule. And it's a film for all ages, for all sports fans, animation fans, and families, people that are fans of Michael Jordan, like, again, like I said in the beginning of the film or the review here, who hasn't seen this movie? And, yeah, I mean, if you break it down, on a technical level, it's not the most excellent, it's not the most well-made technical film, or, again, you can't really go in expecting a quality movie, quality performance from Michael Jordan. Again, it's a Looney Tunes movie. It's more about the fun and the charm here. And watching it again, it's definitely a fun movie. And so with that being said, let me get to my overall thoughts on Space Jam. End of the day, Space Jam, it's a fun, nostalgic family film with a unique blend of basketball, Looney Tunes chaos, and a standout soundtrack. Its cultural appeal and easygoing energy makes it worth watching. And if I were to rate this film on a scale from 1 to 10, for me, I would give this a 6. So, yeah, it's a fun watch. But thank you, DJ, for the request. Hope you enjoyed this review, and have a good day.